Video games, an industry that has seen tremendous growth from its humble beginnings back in the 1970s. Today, video games are everywhere, and are played by many people around the globe in some sort of form. It wasn't always like this. It took time for video games to grow into the entertainment industry that it is today. In this documentary, we're going to go back in time and revisit some games that changed the game industry.
My first game goes back to 1985 with the release of Super Mario Bros. On the NES. It wasn't the first video game ever made, but this game certainly saved the video game market. Without this game, video games may not even exist. The video game crash occurred between 1983 until 1985 due to a massive recession which was so serious it brought an abrupt end to what is considered the second generation of console gaming in North America. Thanks to Nintendo, who wanted to save the video games, they bundled Super Mario Bros. With the NES, which soon became a cultural phenomenon. The game was so successful it became the best-selling video game for 3 decades. The game caused loads of sales for the NES console, and the genre platform has stayed dominant for quite some time. Players were just so compelled to keep playing to see as much of Mario's Mushroom Kingdom as they possibly could. It was certainly an important platformer, so much so that other Mario games that followed kept the same style, keeping players thrilled to explore as much as possible. In 2005, IGN's poll named it the greatest game of all time. A few years later, with Nintendo's massive success to Super Mario Bros., then brought the hugely popular handheld version of Tetris in 1989 on the Game Boy. The game had been released a few years earlier on 1980s home computer platforms as well as arcades, but proved to be highly successful as a handheld game. Tetris was so popular that it sold the Game Boy faster than any other game could have. The game was perfect to play at home or take it wherever you go. Players could spend hours playing whenever they were on the move. No Tetris, no handheld gaming. Simple as that, is what GameTradar quoted in the 50 most important video games of all time. Tetris' success got it first place in the 100th issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly as the greatest game of all time. And in 2007, Tetris came in second place in IGN's 100 greatest games of all time. That's not all for the amazing accomplishments that Tetris achieved. By January 2010, 170 million copies of the game were sold. 70 million were cartridges and 100 million were downloaded. Because of all the downloaded copies of the game, it became the highest paid download game of all time. In 1996, a new character emerged into the gaming world, a character that caught the attention of a new type of audience. Tomb Raider's Lara Croft is one of the first significant female characters in gaming. Interestingly, the original design for the main character in this game was actually going to be a male. The game sold over 7 million copies worldwide. Lara's character meant something to female gamers, as for once they were playing a character that was female, whereas other games they played were a male. The game still offered the enjoyment of an action-adventure game, but with a female character. With the success that the first Tomb Raider had, many other games were released, and as more games came out, Lara's character changed. In 2013, a reboot version of the game was released, and within 48 hours, the game sold 1 million copies.
A famous explorer once said that the extraordinary is in what we do, not who we are. I'd finally set out to make my mark, to find adventure, but instead, adventure found me.
Compared with the other Tomb Raider games, Lara's character in this one was a lot younger. This game is set when she sets out on her first expedition when she was younger and more vulnerable. As the game progresses, her character develops into a stronger and more confident person. As of March 2014, nearly 6 million copies had been sold. The Grand Theft Auto series began in 1997, an open-world action-adventure game that allows the player to take control of a criminal, who can roam freely, complete levels, or cause as much chaos as possible. The first few games on PlayStation 1 were set in a bird's-eye view perspective until 2001 with the release of Grand Theft Auto 3.
sorry, babe. I'm an ambitious girl. You're just small time.
It was first brought out on the PlayStation 2 and was released on PC and Xbox a couple of years later. This was the first Grand Theft Auto game to be set in third person and had more exploration for players to explore on the fictional city of Liberty City. By foot, by car, by train, by boat, or even by air, this game definitely changed how we play open world games. With the game now set in third person, players could really explore the scenery around them much clearer wherever the game was set. Grand Theft Auto 3 was the #1 selling game of 2001, and in 2002 it came second place as the best-selling video game behind its sequel, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Many other sandbox games would try to imitate GTA's success, but this game still remains the granddaddy of open world limits. In 2011, 17.33 million units of the game had been sold. The final game takes us to 2007 for the release of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
Our so-called leaders prostituted us to the West, destroyed our culture, our economies, our honor.
Call of Duty is currently the best first-person shooter of all time and was introduced in 2003 with Call of Duty, which was set during the Second World War, as well as Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 3. When Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was released, it was the first game in the Call of Duty franchise not to be set during World War II. The Modern Warfare series took the game into a whole new setting for players to experience. The game felt transformed. Players still enjoyed gunning down their enemies like in previous games, but with modern-day weapons and technology. As well as the campaign, Call of Duty 4 had a new type of multiplayer for players to enjoy. The player can customise what their preferred primary and secondary weapons are, their choice of perks which allows the players to have different abilities, and their chosen equipment. When playing in the different variety of game modes online, players earn experience points through killing enemies, completing challenges, completing game mode objectives, or finishing a round or match. Earning more experience points unlocks new types of weapons, perks, challenges, and gameplay modes. Prestige mode was also introduced, where players who reached the top level could return to level 1 with a new rank icon. But this would require the players to unlock everything all over again. Other Call of Duty games that were released after Call of Duty 4 kept to the same structure but were finding new ways on how to change the game. With the success that Call of Duty 4 had, the game was the top selling game in 2007, and in May 2009 over 13 million copies of the game had been sold.
Video games have certainly changed throughout the course of time from what they once were many years ago. As time progresses, video games will continue to change, providing gamers with new ways on how we play video games in the future. Just recently, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 were released towards the end of last year. Both consoles have changed so much compared to the first models. It really does show how gaming is forever changing.